Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to another Building Better Communication Skills for IELTS. Today, we're going to be diving into the speaking portion of the exam. We're going to simulate like a real IELTS speaking test so you can get a feel for what it's actually like. You can think of this as a practice run, but from the comfort of your own headphones. So I'll be taking on the role of the examiner, and I'm going to go by the name Lynn, and our expert will be our candidate today. He'll be Dan. And remember, the IELTS speaking test has 3 parts. We'll walk you through each one using like real example questions and answers. Pay close attention to how Dan responds, especially his pacing, pronunciation, and the way he conveys his feelings. All right, Dan, are you ready?
Ready when you are, Lynn.
Okay, great. Let's begin with part 1, which is short questions and answers. In your city, what do you usually do at the weekend?
Well, on weekends, I usually spend my time exploring local parks or attending community events. For example, there's this beautiful park near my house where I enjoy going for a jog or having a picnic with friends. And, if the weather isn't so great, I like visiting museums or trying out new cafes. Weekends are also my time to kind of relax and catch up on hobbies like reading or cooking something new. Yeah, these activities really help me recharge after a busy week.
Okay, great. When you were last in the countryside, who did you go with and why?
The last time I visited the countryside, I went with my family during a long holiday. We decided to go because we wanted to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and enjoy some fresh air. The peaceful surroundings and open fields were perfect for a relaxing getaway. We also went hiking together, which was a great bonding experience. Spending time away from the usual routines, really helped us reconnect as a family.
Sounds lovely.
Mm.
In the town or city you live in now, what are your favorite pastimes?
In the city I live in, I really enjoy going to local markets and exploring different food stalls. There's a vibrant night market here that has a mix of cuisines, and I love trying something new every time I visit. Another favorite pastime is walking along the riverfront. It's a peaceful spot that's great for reflecting or simply enjoying the view. And when I want to unwind indoors, I often watch movies or attend book club meetings with friends. These activities give me a nice balance of socializing and relaxation.
That's a great start, Dan. I noticed you used like specific examples to support your answers, which is really important in the IELTS speaking test. It helps you kind of demonstrate a wider range of vocabulary, and it makes your answers more engaging for the examiner. Remember, you want to showcase those language skills as much as possible. Now, you, the listener, might be wondering what kind of topics they ask about in part 2.
Uh-huh.
Well, they can be, quite varied, but they often focus on personal experiences, opinions, or descriptions. The key is to be prepared to talk about a range of subjects. All right, Dan, now we're moving on to part 2, individual long turn. This is where you'll have a chance to speak for a bit longer on a specific topic. So I'm going to give you a cue card with a topic and some prompts. You'll have 1 minute to prepare your thoughts, then you can speak for up to 2 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, you ready for the cue card?
Yeah, ready when you are.
Here's your cue card. It says, describe a city where you have lived in the past, you should say. Where the city was, why you were living there, how long you lived there for, and explain what you liked and disliked about living there.
Okay, I think I've got some ideas.
All right, your 1 minute preparation time starts now.
Mm.
Okay, Dan, your 1 minute is up. Whenever you're ready, you can start speaking.
Okay, I'd like to talk about Ho Chi Minh City, commonly known as Saigon, where I lived for about 2 years after I graduated from university. It's located in southern Vietnam, and it's the largest city in the country. And it's often referred to as, like, the economic hub, due to its fast-paced development and opportunities. I moved there in 2020 for my first full-time job. The company I worked for had its headquarters there, so it made sense for me to relocate. It was an exciting but also kind of slightly nerve-wracking decision because I'd never lived in such a big and bustling city before. So I stayed in Ho Chi Minh City for 2 years, and it was like an eye-opening experience. What I loved most about it was the energy. It's a city that never seems to sleep. The streets are always alive, whether it's early morning with people exercising in parks or late at night with food vendors serving delicious snacks. I particularly enjoyed in Nguyen Hue Walking Street, where you could find, a mix of street performances, families out for strolls, and just a lively atmosphere. Oh, and the food scene was also incredible. From trendy coffee shops to traditional southern Vietnamese dishes, like banzeo and hủ tiếu. But that said, there were a few aspects I found challenging. The weather, for one, could be intense. The tropical heat, combined with sudden downpours during the rainy season, made getting around a bit tricky at times. And traffic was another hurdle. While I got used to weaving through motorbikes, it could still feel chaotic and exhausting, especially during rush hours. But overall, though, living in Ho Chi Minh City was a transformative experience. It taught me resilience and adaptability, and I met some wonderful people along the way. While it's not a city I'd live in forever, it definitely holds a special place in my heart, and I'd love to return to visit someday.
That was a really vivid description of Ho Chi Minh City, Dan. I particularly liked how you contrasted the positive and negative aspects of living there. It showed a balanced perspective and good organization of your thoughts. So listeners, remember, structure is key in part two. Make sure you have a clear introduction, main points, and a conclusion. Now we're going to move on to the final section of the speaking test. Part three, the two-way discussion. This part is a bit more conversational, and we'll be discussing some broader themes related to the topic of cities. All right, Dan, let's dive into some broader questions about city life in the future. Now, you mentioned the possibility of building cities on other planets. What do you think, listener? Is that something you think we'll see in our lifetime? And what ethical considerations do you think we should be thinking about? Okay, Dan, back to you. Do you think that within the next 100 years, we will be trying to build new cities on other planets?
Yeah, I think it's highly likely that humanity will attempt to build new cities on other planets within the next century, especially given the rapid advancements in space exploration. Companies like SpaceX and initiatives by NASA have already taken significant steps toward making this a reality, and the idea of colonizing planets like Mars seems plausible. As a response to challenges such as overpopulation and climate change on Earth, however, there will be substantial obstacles to overcome, such as creating sustainable living environments and addressing ethical concerns about altering extraterrestrial ecosystems. So while it's exciting prospect, it's a project that requires careful planning and global cooperation.
Definitely a lot to consider there.
Yeah.
What would happen if the government put limits on how many people were allowed to live in big cities?
Well, if governments imposed limits on the population of big cities, it would have both positive and negative consequences. On the one hand, it could help reduce urban congestion, ease pressure on infrastructure, and improve living standards for residents. Cities might become cleaner, less crowded, and more sustainable. But on the other hand, such restrictions could lead to unintended problems. For example, housing prices might skyrocket due to limited availability, or businesses could struggle to find enough workers. Additionally, smaller towns and rural areas might face challenges in accommodating the sudden influx of people requiring significant investment in infrastructure and services. Ultimately, while limits could address some urban issues, they would need to be carefully implemented to avoid creating new problems elsewhere.
Makes sense. So today, many young people move away from smaller towns to big cities. What effect does this have on these small towns?
Yeah, when young people move from smaller towns to big cities, it can significantly impact the social and economic dynamics of those towns. One major effect is the aging population left behind, which can strain local services like healthcare and reduce the vibrancy of the community. Economically, small towns may struggle as businesses close due to a lack of customers or a reduced workforce. However, this trend isn't entirely negative. Some young people return later in life bringing new skills and ideas that can help revitalize their hometowns. And additionally, advances in remote work are allowing more people to live in smaller towns while still accessing urban job opportunities, which might kind of reverse some of these effects in the future.
That's a really interesting point about remote work potentially changing the dynamic between cities and smaller towns. It's definitely something to keep an eye on as technology continues to evolve. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, listener. I hope you found this deep dive into the IELTS speaking test helpful and that you're feeling more confident about tackling it yourself. Remember, practice is key. So take the questions we've discussed today and try answering them yourself. Maybe even record your responses and listen back to them to see where you can improve. Or share them with a friend or teacher for feedback. And don't forget those key elements we talked about: pausing, pacing pronunciation, and conveying your feelings. Good luck with your IELTS journey, and we'll see you in the next episode of Building Better Communication Skills for IELTS.
Welcome back to another Building Better Communication Skills for IELTS. Last time we looked at some example answers, right? And they all got band 9.
Uh-huh.
But this time, we're going to dig into why those answers were so good.
Yeah, we're gonna be looking at those keywords and phrases
Exactly.
from that keywords and phrases sort.
So if you're thinking about taking the IELTS, and the speaking section's kind of scary,
Sure.
this is how you can get that top score. We'll be breaking down those top answers, but not by saying them again.
Right.
It's more like why are they so effective?
It's like the secret code.
Yeah.
To impress those examiners.
Right. And even if you're not planning on taking the IELTS, this is still good stuff.
Yeah,
If you just want to be better at talking English, stick with us.
absolutely.
Okay, so ready to dive in.
Let's do it. Let's start with part 1, IELTS Speaking Test, part 1, where they ask you about, just normal everyday stuff, hobbies, your daily routines, that sort of thing.
Okay, first question. In your city, what do you usually do at the weekend?
Okay.
So one of those key phrases was exploring local parks.
Exploring local parks.
Exploring local parks. So what does that tell us? Someone's, out and about, active lifestyle.
Yeah, not just going to, exploring. Much more interesting.
Right. And it hints that they're part of the community, out there seeing what their city has to offer.
Exactly. Engaged.
Right. And then another one was attending community events.
Attending community events.
Attending community events. So again,
Yeah.
reinforces that idea, active in their community.
Yeah.
Good impression, right?
Yeah, and it shows you can be social, interact with people.
Okay, next up, a beautiful park near my house.
A beautiful park near my house.
A beautiful park near my house. Now see how they used beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not just any park, it's a beautiful park.
Makes it more vivid, more engaging.
Right. They're paying attention to the details, appreciate the beauty around them.
Absolutely.
Okay, 2 more keywords, jog and picnic with friends.
Jog and picnic with friends.
Jog and picnic with friends. Now, this is interesting. It shows they understand collocations.
Collocations, for those of you who don't know, that just means words that often go together.
Right. So instead of saying, I run in the park or I eat with my friends, they're using jog and picnic with friends, which just sounds like more natural,
It's subtle, but it shows a more advanced vocabulary.
Okay, next. If the weather isn't great.
If the weather isn't great.
If the weather isn't great. Seems simple, but it shows they can use conditional sentences correctly.
Yeah, and it shows they can adapt, right? They got backup plans when things don't go their way.
Visiting museums and trying out new cafes.
Visiting museums and trying out new cafes.
Visiting museums and trying out new cafes. What does that tell us about them?
They got a lot of interests, like trying new things, culturally engaged,
Right.
open to new experiences.
Okay, how about this one? Relax and catch up on hobbies.
Relax and catch up on hobbies.
Relax and catch up on hobbies. This shows they get work-life balance.
Important, and it tells us a bit about their personality, their values.
And finally, recharge after a busy week.
Recharge after a busy week.
Recharge after a busy week sums up the whole point of the weekend, right?
Mm.
To relax, get ready for the week ahead. So what stands out to you from this first question?
It's amazing how just a few words can tell you so much about someone,
Yeah.
their lifestyle, their personality, even their values.
It's like each word's like a little piece of a puzzle,
Yeah.
building up a picture of who they are. Okay, let's move on. The next question from part 1. When you were last in the countryside, who did you go with? Why? And one of the key words was escape the hustle and bustle of the city.
Escape the hustle and bustle of the city.
Escape the hustle and bustle of the city. So right away, we know why they went to the countryside.
Yeah, needed a break from the city.
Right.
That stress.
And it's just a nice way to create that contrast.
Yeah.
The peace of the countryside versus that crazy city life.
Absolutely.
Then there's enjoy some fresh air.
Enjoy some fresh air.
Enjoy some fresh air. Shows they want a healthier, more natural kind of environment.
Appreciate the simple things.
Yeah. Okay, and then these 2, peaceful surroundings and open fields, they really emphasize that difference.
Peaceful surroundings and open fields.
Peaceful surroundings and open fields.
Yeah.
You can just picture it, right?
Totally. Tranquility.
Exactly. And then a relaxing getaway.
A relaxing getaway.
A relaxing getaway.
Yeah.
Sums it up, right? A break from their routine, time to chill.
Exactly. And relaxing implies that they actually, succeeded. They actually relaxed.
Okay, when hiking and bonding experience.
An hiking and bonding experience.
When hiking and bonding experience shows the trip was active,
Yeah.
they were doing things.
Yeah, and social.
Spending time with people they care about. And bonding experience is just a nice way to put it. Right?
Really captures that positive feeling.
Last one for this question. Away from usual routines.
Away from usual routine.
Away from usual routines shows they're okay with stepping outside their comfort zone, trying new things.
Exactly. Valuing those new experiences.
So even a simple question about a trip to the countryside can be answered in a way that shows off your vocabulary
Right.
and your understanding of the topic. It's not just about saying what happened.
No. It's about using those descriptive words and connecting your answer to bigger ideas.
Right. Okay, last question from part 1. In the town or city you live in now, what are your favorite pastimes?
All right.
So one key phrase was local markets.
Local markets.
Local markets. It's basic, right?
Yeah.
But it tells us they like, local culture, community, maybe even like fresh local food.
It sets the scene for the next phrase, exploring different food stalls.
Exploring different food stalls.
Oh, exploring different food stalls.
Exploring different food stalls.
Yeah.
So they're adventurous, right?
They are, trying new foods, open to new things.
And food markets, they're places where people gather, so it shows they like to be social.
Exactly.
Okay, how about this one? Vibrant night market.
Vibrant night market.
Vibrant night market. I love that word, vibrant. Just like you could feel the energy.
Yeah. Sight, sounds, smells.
Right. And then mix of cuisine.
Mix of cuisines.
Mix cuisines. Again, that variety.
Yeah, and, it kind of shows they're a bit worldly.
Okay. Trying something new.
Trying something new.
Trying something new. Again, that adventurous side.
Growth mindset. Always good.
Okay, this is a good one. Walking along the riverfront.
Walking along the river.
Walking along the riverfront. Just like peaceful, right?
Mm-hmm. And it tells us they appreciate the beauty of their city.
Yeah. And that they'd like to be active.
Yeah.
Peaceful spot. And reflecting or enjoying the view.
Peaceful spot and reflecting or enjoying the view.
Peaceful spot.
Yeah.
And reflecting or enjoying the view shows they value that quiet time.
Yeah. A nice contrast to that, that busy night market we talked about.
Right. Okay, then unwind indoors.
Unwind indoors.
Unwind indoors. So it's not all about being outside. They know how to relax inside too.
Balance, right. Important.
Yeah. And, taking care of themselves.
Absolutely.
And last two, book club meetings and balance of socializing and relaxation.
Book club meetings and balance of socializing and relaxation.
Book club meetings and balance of socializing and relaxation. So they like to use their brains and be social.
Right. That balance is like key. Shows a well-rounded person.
Okay, so even that last question from part 1 gives you a chance to really show off your personality, your values, all that.
Absolutely. And they did it in a way that was, really interesting to listen to.
What stands out to you about these last few keywords and phrases?
I think it's just how powerful these simple words can be when you use them right.
That's like building a mosaic. Each word is a little tile, and they all come together to make a bigger picture.
Exactly.
But, we've just been talking about why these Band 9 answers worked.
Yeah.
The real key is practice.
Absolutely. Take some time, answer those same part 1 questions yourself.
Right.
And use those keywords and phrases we've been talking about. See what works for you.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to be creative with your language. We'll be back in a minute to look at part 2.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back. Part 2 of the IELTS.
Yeah.
The speaking test.
Yeah. This is where you got to give a longer talk about something specific.
Right. It's your chance to really show them how fluent you are and how well you can, tell a story.
Yeah.
Or describe something.
Get into the details.
So in the example we looked at, they had to describe a city they lived in the past.
Right.
But remember, we're focusing on those keywords, those phrases, not the whole story.
We want to know why they picked those words, what makes them so good.
So the city they talked about was Ho Chi Minh City,
Okay.
also known as Saigon. And they actually said that right away, commonly known as Saigon. Shows they know their stuff.
Yes, cultural awareness, right?
Yeah. And then they described it as the economic hub of Vietnam.
Right.
Talking about fast-paced development and opportunity.
Yes, paced development and opportunities.
Fast-paced development and opportunities. Right away, you get this picture of a city that's alive, important.
Yeah, and it shows that the speaker's thinking about those bigger economic and social trends.
Yeah, add some depth.
Yeah.
And then they said, relocate for my first full-time job.
Relocate for my first full-time job.
Relocate for my first full-time job. So we know why they were there.
Yeah.
And it's personal, right?
It is. And a little bit of, ambition, willingness to try new things, take risks.
Next one, eye-opening experience.
Eye-opening experience.
Eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
Such a good way to sum up their time in Ho Chi Minh City.
Totally. New perspectives, new ways of life, broaden their horizons.
And it hints at growth, right? Personal growth.
Absolutely.
Okay, classic one. A city that never seems to sleep.
A city that never seems to sleep.
A city that never seems to sleep. You could just picture it, right? That energy.
Yeah. Great imagery.
And then they gave a specific example of that. Nguyen Hue Walking Street.
On Hugh Walking Street.
Nguyen Hue Walking Street. It's so important to give those real examples.
It is. Shows you've actually been there, done that, not just talking in general.
Right. And then they said street performances and lively atmosphere.
Street performances and lively atmosphere.
Street performances and lively atmosphere. Just paints that picture, right,
Mm-hmm.
of a place that's full of life. Okay, now they shifted a little bit to talk about the tough parts of living in Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay.
Starting with tropical heat.
Tropical heat.
Tropical heat. I mean, you can just feel it, right? That humidity.
Way more evocative than just hot weather,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And then sudden downpours during the rainy season.
Sudden downpours during the rainy season.
Sudden downpours during the rainy season
Downpour.
just shows how unpredictable the weather could be.
Yeah.
Okay, another challenge, traffic.
Traffic, yeah.
Especially weaving through motorbikes.
Weaving through motorbikes.
Weaving through motorbikes. That is Ho Chi Minh City.
Oh, yeah. So specific.
Shows they're observant, you know.
Yeah.
Can really describe what it's like to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just said it straight up, chaotic.
Chaotic.
Chaotic. Not just what it looked like, but how it felt.
Yeah. Emotional response.
Then, to wrap it up, transformative experience.
Transformative experience.
Transformative experience.
Yeah.
Means it really changed them, right?
Yeah. Deep impact. Personal growth. All that.
And the last two we'll talk about resilience and adaptability.
Resilience and adaptability.
Resilience and adaptability. I mean, those are the skills you learn when you live somewhere challenging, right?
Really. Absolutely. And those are good qualities to have no matter where you are.
So even in just a couple of minutes, there are so many ways to show off your vocabulary,
Mm.
your fluency, all that. And by paying attention to these key words, you can start to see how to structure your own answers
Exactly.
to impress those examiners.
Yeah. Before we move on to part 3, I want to give you guys a little challenge.
Okay.
Go back, listen to those part 2 questions from last time.
Mhm.
How would you answer them? Try using some of those key words and phrases we've been talking about.
Yeah. See what stories you can come up with. We'll be back in a sec to look at part 3. All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive, part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. So this is where, it gets a little more challenging.
Yeah, this is where you gotta think critically, see things from different angles,
Right.
and be able to explain your opinions clearly, really well reasoned.
And we're still focusing on those keywords, those phrases from the sample answer.
Mhm.
We want to see why they work so well.
Yeah, it's we're giving you the tools to build your own, awesome answers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question was, do you think that within the next 100 years, we will be trying to build new cities on other planets?
Big question.
So they started off with rapid advancements in space exploration.
Rapid advancements in space exploration.
Rapid advancements in space exploration. I mean, that's a great way to start, right?
It is. Sets the scene for talking about the future of space travel, colonizing other planets, all that.
Yeah, and it shows they know what's going on in the world. Science and technology, always a good thing.
Absolutely.
And then they gave some examples like companies like SpaceX and initiatives by NASA.
Companies like SpaceX and initiatives by NASA.
Companies like SpaceX and initiatives by NASA shows they're not just talking, in general, they've got specific examples.
It's that backing it up with evidence,
Yeah, and it shows that it's not just governments doing this stuff, it's private companies too.
Yeah, that collaboration is key.
Okay, now the big one. Colonizing planets like Mars.
Colonizing planets like Mars.
Colonizing planets like Mars. I mean, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Humanity going beyond Earth.
Pretty exciting, but also a lot of challenges.
Oh, yeah. And they bring up some of those challenges like overpopulation and climate change.
Overpopulation and
Why?
climate change.
Overpopulation and climate change. Like maybe colonizing space is the answer to those problems,
Yeah. It's not just a sci-fi thing anymore. It could be necessary for our survival.
Right.
Okay, next phrase. Sustainable living environments.
Sustainable living environment.
Sustainable living environments. So thinking about how to make these space colonies, self-sufficient.
Yeah, because resources are limited up there. Got to be sustainable.
Right. And then this is a good one. Long-term consequences.
Long-term consequences.
Long-term consequences makes you think about the future, right?
Yeah, what we do today affects the generations to come.
Okay, switching gears a bit. International collaboration. International collaboration.
International collaboration.
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge, right? Can't do it alone.
Yep, gotta work together.
Shows they understand that. And then technological breakthroughs.
Technological breakthroughs.
Technological breakthroughs. So
Mm.
without those, we're not going anywhere, right?
Gotta have that innovation.
There's a little bit of hope, though, right?
It does. It does. Like, we can figure this out.
Then last one, potential benefits.
Potential benefits.
Potential benefits. Got to remember the good stuff, too, right?
Oh, yeah. Discoveries, new technologies could benefit everyone.
Okay, so they answered a really tough question, right?
Yeah, they did. Showed both sides, the challenges and the opportunities.
Use great vocabulary.
Strong reasoning skills, too.
Okay, next question. What would happen if the government put limits on how many people were allowed to live in big cities? And one of the first key words was population density.
Population density.
Yeah, population density.
Mm.
So right away, we're talking about overcrowding in cities.
Mm-hmm. Something everyone living in a city can relate to, right?
Yeah. And then strain on resources.
Strain on resources.
Strain on resources. So when too many people are crammed into one place, it puts pressure on everything. Housing, transportation, healthcare.
Yeah, how can cities keep up with all those people? Can they do it sustainably?
Okay. Economic implication.
Economic implications.
Economic implications. So it's not just about people, it's about money too.
Yeah, businesses, jobs, the whole economy.
Social equity.
Social equity.
Social equity. Now, this is important. It's about fairness, right?
Exactly. Making sure everyone has the same opportunities, no matter who they are, where they come from.
And then individual liberties.
Individual liberties.
Individual liberties. So
Yeah.
the government's telling people where they can and can't live.
Yeah. Tough question, right? Where does the government's power end and people's freedom begin?
Okay, now for some solutions. Urban planning strategies.
Urban planning strategies.
Urban planning strategies. So instead
Yeah.
of just limiting people, you can try to make cities work better.
Yeah. Better infrastructure, more sustainable development, maybe even encourage people to move to smaller towns.
Right. And then this is always a good one to remember. Unforeseen consequences.
Unforeseen consequences.
Unforeseen consequences. You never know what's going to happen when you start messing with a complex system like a city.
Exactly. Gotta be careful. Think things through. And be ready to adapt if things don't go as planned.
Okay, so another tough question, right?
Go.
But they answered it well.
They did. Looked at both sides of the issue.
Used great vocabulary.
Strong reasoning skills.
Okay, last question. Today, many young people move away from smaller towns to big cities. What effect does this have on these small towns?
All right.
So right away they used demographic shift.
Demographic shift.
Demographic shift just means like the population's changing, right?
Mm-hmm. Sets the context. Shows they understand the bigger picture.
And then brain drain.
Brain.
Brain drain.
Yeah.
When all the smart, talented young people leave.
Yeah. Big problem for small towns. Hurts their economy, slows down their development.
And then, it can lead to economic decline.
Economic decline.
Economic decline, fewer people to work to support local businesses.
Yeah. It's like a vicious cycle,
Yeah.
Young people leave, the town gets worse, even fewer people want to stay.
And then it's not just about money, it's about loss of cultural vitality.
Loss of cultural vitality.
Loss of cultural vitality. Young people bring new ideas, new energy. When they're gone, things can get kind of stale.
Exactly. Those connections between generations are so important. Young people shape the future of their communities.
Okay, social fabric.
Social fabric.
Social fabric, like the connections between people in a community.
Yeah, when young people leave, those connections weaken.
It's harder for the community to, stick together to solve problems.
Oh, right.
Okay, what can be done about this? They mentioned government initiatives.
Government initiatives.
Government initiatives. So maybe the government can do something, right?
Yeah. Create some programs, offer some incentives to get young people to stay in those small towns.
Or even to come back. And it's not just about keeping young people there. It's about rural development.
Rural development.
Rural development, making those towns better places to live.
Yeah, improve the infrastructure, create more job opportunities, make it a place where people actually want to be.
And then there's always technological advancements.
Technological advance.
Technological advancements. This is huge, right? Remote work, online learning could really change things.
Absolutely. People in small towns can have access to the same opportunities as people in big cities.
Right. And lastly, community resilience.
Community resilience.
Community resilience. So even though there are these challenges, small towns can find ways to adapt.
Yeah. The people who live there, the businesses, the organizations, they all got to work together.
To create a future for their town.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the IELTS speaking test, it's not just about, showing off your grammar and vocabulary.
Nope. It's about thinking critically, communicating clearly, engaging with those big ideas.
And those skills are going to help you, not just on the test, but in life.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep practicing, keep getting better.
That's right.
Until next time, happy speaking.
Sure.